A thick curtain of winter fog hung over Chicago that morning, the kind that swallowed sound and blurred the edges of every building, making the city feel quieter than usual. Alexander Hayes, a 38-year-old CEO known for his precise routines and strict schedules, stepped out of the sleek corporate car that dropped him near his headquarters. He intended to walk the last block to clear his mind before a day packed with investor meetings. The snow crunched beneath his shoes, the cold air nipped at his face, and he was already rehearsing boardroom strategies when a small tug on his coat made him freeze mid-step. He turned, expecting a stranger or perhaps a fan recognizing him, but instead he found a little girl no older than 7 standing alone in the snow, her curly blonde hair tucked under a wool hat, her red coat dusted with frost. Her wide eyes were filled with something he wasn't used to seeing reflected at him: fear, desperation, and a silent plea for help. And then, in the softest whisper the winter wind almost carried away, she said the words that would shift the entire course of his day, his choices, and his heart. "Please help. My mom's missing. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity still alive in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps powerful stories like this reach more hearts." Alexander felt his heartbeat slow, as if the world around him had hit pause. Something in the girl's trembling posture pulled him in deeper than he thought possible. Despite his business-hardened exterior, something inside him cracked as he looked at her small, gloved hands clutching the edge of his coat. He knelt slowly so they were eye level, taking in the helplessness her young features couldn't hide. He asked her where she had last seen her mother, and she pointed down the street toward a row of older apartment buildings covered in snow and ice, areas he rarely walked through. She introduced herself as Claire, her voice wavering as she explained that she woke up alone that morning, the front door slightly open, her mom nowhere in sight, and their heater barely working, leaving their apartment freezing. Claire said she had waited for hours, but when her mother still didn't return, fear overpowered her. She had seen him walking by earlier while watching from the window, and something about him made her believe he would listen. Alexander was not accustomed to detours in his life. His days were predictable, controlled, engineered for efficiency. Yet something in Claire's innocent trust weakened the rigid walls he had built over the years. Without hesitation, he took off his gloves and gently placed them on her cold hands before walking with her toward her building. As they ventured deeper into the worn-down neighborhood, he noticed things he had never paid attention to before: flickering streetlights, cracked sidewalks, cars buried under days-old snow, and silence that felt heavy on every corner. Claire led him up 3 flights of stairs in a dimly lit building that smelled of old carpet and unheated hallways. When she unlocked the door to her apartment, a rush of cold air hit them. The place was small, with mismatched furniture and a few toys scattered near the couch. A blanket lay crumpled on the floor near the window, and a faint draft came through the cracked frame. Claire pointed to a note on the kitchen counter, written in shaky handwriting, almost smudged by moisture. It said she was going out to get something for breakfast and would return soon, but never did. Alexander felt something unfamiliar rising in his chest, concern that reached beyond sympathy. He asked Claire if her mother had any friends nearby or places she usually went, but Claire shook her head. Her mother, whose name was Hannah, worked long hours cleaning offices at night and rarely had time for anything else. They had moved here only a few months earlier after fleeing a difficult situation in another city, leaving their past behind in hopes of rebuilding their lives. Claire admitted she was scared something had happened, that maybe her mother slipped on the ice or got hurt. Her voice cracked each time she imagined the worst. Alexander scanned the apartment again, sensing the weight of their struggles. He couldn't walk away now. Something inside him knew he was meant to help this little girl who had shown more bravery than many adults. He told her he would find her mother, no matter what it took. He called his assistant to cancel his morning meetings, something he had never done before, then began retracing the possible path Hannah might have taken. Claire walked beside him, her hand gripping his tightly, trusting him completely. They visited the small grocery store at the corner where the cashier confirmed Hannah had come in earlier but left abruptly, looking distressed after checking her phone. She had dropped her wallet in the process, and the cashier handed it to Alexander. Inside was only a few dollars, an old ID, and a folded picture of Claire. They continued searching, asking people if they had seen her. A woman outside a coffee shop said she saw someone who matched Hannah's description heading quickly toward the train station earlier that morning, looking upset. Claire's grip on Alexander tightened as they rushed toward the station. The station was bustling even in the cold, trains roaring through the platforms, commuters rushing past without noticing the panic growing in Claire's eyes. Alexander went to the station attendants, showing them Hannah's photo. One attendant recognized her and explained she had been sitting on a bench crying before running toward the exit near the pedestrian bridge. Claire's breathing turned ragged as she imagined her mother lost, hurt, or worse. Alexander gently steadied her, reminding her she wasn't alone anymore. They followed the path toward the pedestrian bridge, where they found a city worker clearing snow. When Alexander asked if he had seen Hannah, the man nodded. She had slipped on the icy stairs earlier and seemed injured but refused medical help, saying she had to get back to her daughter. She limped toward the nearby park, disappearing into the snowfall. Alexander and Claire hurried toward the park, fear pressing heavily against them. The park was nearly silent except for the crunching of their boots against snow. Claire suddenly pointed toward a line of benches near the frozen pond, her voice trembling as she whispered that she saw someone lying near one of the benches. Alexander ran ahead and found a woman curled on her side, her coat covered in snow, her face pale and exhausted. Claire sprinted toward her, tears streaming down her cheeks. Alexander knelt beside the woman, Hannah, and checked her pulse, relieved to find it steady but weak. She had a swollen ankle and signs of dehydration. Claire wrapped her little arms around her mother, sobbing uncontrollably. The moment was raw, emotional, and overwhelming. Hannah whispered her daughter's name, apologizing for scaring her and explaining she slipped badly and couldn't walk. Her phone had died, leaving her unable to call for help. Alexander didn't hesitate. He lifted Hannah carefully into his arms and carried her all the way to his waiting car, despite her protests. He took them straight to the hospital, staying with Claire the entire time as doctors treated Hannah's injuries. Claire sat beside him in the waiting room, leaning against his arm, as if she had known him forever. Hours later, when Hannah was stable and resting, Claire asked him if he would stay until her mother woke up. Something inside him softened entirely, and he promised he would. As Hannah regained strength, she thanked him with tears in her eyes. She explained how hard life had been, how she worked endlessly to provide for Claire, how they had escaped a situation filled with fear, and how she had tried to build a better life. Alexander listened quietly, realizing how different their worlds were, yet how connected they had become through one desperate moment. Over the next few days, he made sure they had groceries, arranged for their heater to be repaired, and ensured Hannah would not lose her job because of her absence. Claire followed him everywhere like a shadow, her trust unwavering. He found himself smiling more, caring more, and feeling more human than he had in years. Something about Claire reminded him of the innocence he once had before life hardened him. Something about Hannah reminded him that strength came in many forms, including quiet struggle and unspoken resilience. When Hannah was discharged, Alexander drove them home, making sure everything was safe and warm. Claire hugged him tightly before they entered their apartment, telling him he had saved not just her mother but her whole world. The moment struck him deeply. He realized he had stepped into their lives as a stranger but was leaving as someone who mattered. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep emotional, meaningful stories alive. Before you go, please comment, "Kindness still exists," if the ending moved you. If you want a thumbnail caption, SEO tags, or image prompts for this story, just tell me. I'll create them exactly as you want.